Universes Beyond. Universes Beyond never changes. Oh no, wait, it actually changes quite frequently. Right now, the Universes Beyond product is a quartet of Fallout Commander decks in collaboration between Wizards of the Coast and Bethesda Software. Softworks. Is it software or softworks? Now, I'm actually a huge fan of Bethesda games, and Fallout is no exception. I love Fallout 1, Fallout 2, and Fallout New Vegas, but I also play so many other Bethesda games. I love Skyrim. I also love Skyrim Legendary Edition, and Skyrim Anniversary Edition, and Skyrim Special Edition, and Skyrim Legendary Anniversary Edition, and Skyrim Anniversary Special Edition, Skyrim VR, Skyrim Legendary Special Anniversary Edition VR, and Skyrim for Switch. But now Skyrim is here for Magic the Gathering. What? That's next year. But now Fallout is here for Magic the Gathering, bringing with it a bevy of brand new Commander cards that are also Legacy legal. But what cards from these decks might you want to put in existing or soon-to-be-built Commander decks of your own? Presented here are the top 5 picks for Commander decks for the 99. We're not going over legendary creatures unless we think they'd be great in the 99, and focusing instead on cards that you might want to put in the decks that you already own or the decks that you are going to build. And because there are so many choices, I've decided to exclude some powerful but narrow cards that will be harder to find a home for outside of these precons. The Energy precon, for example, has a lot of excellent energy enablers, but there currently are no energy-specific commanders outside of this precon. None of the legendary creatures from Kaladesh block provide or care about energy counters. That's weird when you think about it. So nonetheless, as sweet as many of these energy enablers are, I'm not going to include them in this list. So that being said, let's dive right in after I tell you about these 6 classic Magic the Gathering boxes that I'm giving away on my next Whatnot stream. Wow! That's right, I'm giving away 6 of my favorite things from Magic's past, but it's a mystery. Are they mystery boxes? No, because that's too recent, and these are old, like me, the professor. Just tune in on March 5th at 11 a.m. Pacific and you can win one of these 6 pieces of Magic history for free, shipped anywhere in the world. I'm also giving everyone, that's right, everyone, a $15 credit to spend on Magic the Gathering cards, Magic the Gathering packs, Magic the Gathering precons. It's $15 to do whatever you want with on Whatnot. Just use code www.whatnot.com/invite/Tolarian College and you'll get a $15 credit to spend on anything you want on Whatnot. Whatnot is kind of like if Twitch and eBay had a baby. People sell items at buy-it-now prices or just auction them off. There's cool Magic stuff from Magic stores and also a bunch of other categories for those who don't want Magic the Gathering things. But I do, and I'm giving you $15 to spend on them. So just use my invite code for $15 of credit by going to www.whatnot.com/invite/Tolarian College and then tune in to my next Whatnot stream for a chance to walk away with one of my favorite things from Magic the Gathering's history. That's it. That's the ad. Now to the card evaluations. 6 of them. Before we get to the list proper, I want to talk about a trio of cards that make up our honorable mention section. Spot removal occupies a strange niche in Commander. More players at the table means more stuff that needs interacting with, but also having more opponents means your one-for-one interaction is less impactful than it is in 1v1 games. That said, you still need to pack some amount of small-scale interaction so you don't straight up die to another player's single card. Because of this, you want your interaction to be either highly efficient like Swords to Plowshares and Swan Song, or have it provide you with some additional bonus to justify spending mana and a card on it. Maybe your interaction gives you a card back, like Arcane Denial, or maybe it can destroy multiple things on the board for a single card, like Windgrace's Judgment. In the Fallout Commander decks, there are 3 sweet new interactive spells that fall into this category of spot removal that goes that extra mile. That's Bottle Cap Blast, and Atomize all take something scary off the board, and then some. In the case of Vats, a 4-mana black instant, you destroy whatever the scariest creature on the board happens to be, plus a few other creatures that are unlucky enough to share the same toughness as the creature you really want to be rid of. Note that if one of your own guys happens to have that toughness too, you don't have to target it. What's more, Vats has split second, so your opponents can't save their own creature with a protection spell or ability. Putting split second on a removal spell is easily worth paying a higher mana cost. Just ask players who put Krosan Grip in their deck over Natural Eyes. Bottle Cap Blast is a red removal spell with some upside of its own. First of all, despite costing 5 mana at face value, Bottle Cap Blast has Improvise, so you can reduce its mana cost for each spare untapped artifact that you happen to have in play, including tokens. That means you could spend as little as a single red mana to cast this spell, dealing a whopping 5 damage to any target. That means you can hit someone's face with this. You can hit a pesky planeswalker with it. Heck, you can even hit a battle with it. And hey, if you hit a permanent for more damage than you needed to kill it, well, then that's just all profit, baby. Create tapped treasure tokens equal to the difference. So at the end of the day, you can spend as little as 1 red mana to be left with as much as 4 treasure tokens for future use. That is some excellent value on a removal spell. Lastly, Atomize is a 4-mana gold card that will fit into any deck with lots of counters. Atomize destroys any non-land permanent. Then you do one of Commander players' favorite things: proliferate. There's not a counters deck in Golgari colors that doesn't want this card. 3 mana is generally the going rate for unconditional removal. Think Anguished Unmaking, Maelstrom Pulse, and Beast Within. So for just 1 additional mana investment, you get to add counters to anything and everything that already has counters. Plus, it's an instant, so you can proliferate at instant speed. Maybe you want to save a creature with a counter on it from red-based removal, while also taking someone else's threat off the board. Or maybe you have a planeswalker being attacked for would-be lethal damage, and you use Atomize as a way to keep it on the board. And again, this is while taking another player's threat off the board. Regardless of the scenario, Atomize is an incredibly flexible and invaluable removal spell, provided you make good use out of that proliferate ability. Now for the main event. First up on our list, we have Strongback, a 3-mana green aura enchantment that any Voltron-style deck will absolutely adore. Strongback enchants a creature and gives it +2/+2 for each artifact or enchantment attached to the creature, including Strongback itself. Strongback also provides a mana discount for any equip ability targeting enchanted creature, as well as any aura you cast that targets the creature. 3 mana in exchange for exponentially boosting your creature's power and toughness isn't half bad all on its own, but if you attach even a single other equipment or enchantment to the creature that you enchanted with Strongback, you could get that initial mana back immediately, provided the equipment or aura would have cost you at least 3 generic mana to attach to the creature. And that's just the first additional equipment or aura. Each one you target your creature with after that means you net more and more additional mana. After all, wasn't it Benjamin Franklin that said, "A mana saved is a mana earned"? Smart guy. I'm pretty sure he won a couple Pro Tours. Strongback is a relatively unique effect for Voltron strategies. There are plenty of creatures and other permanents that reduce the equip or enchant costs of equipment and auras, but very few auras or equipment that reduce the cost of their fellow equipment and auras. The closest example is Bladehold War Whip, but even that only discounts other equipment, and only by the comparably paltry 1 generic mana. Strongback will therefore be a linchpin card in any Voltron deck that touches green. The staggering cost reduction, coupled with the massive boost of power and toughness that Strongback provides, is simply unparalleled among its fellow equipment and auras. Dang, I think I'm gonna put this in my Thrun deck for sure, just in case Small Ant, Ailey, or Bloody try and shuffle up and play against it again. Speaking of cards for Voltron strategies, the gifts keep on giving. It's almost like there was a whole precon dedicated to auras and equipment. Number 4 on our list is Codsworth, Handy Helper. Codsworth is another stellar card for decks with lots of equipment and auras. For just 2 generic and a white mana, you get a legendary robot artifact creature that gives your commander creature cards Ward 2, and taps for a whopping 2 white mana, which can only be used to cast aura and equipment spells. Still, even with that albeit hefty restriction, a mana dork that only costs 3 mana itself and taps for 2 mana would be impressive impressive enough, but to do that in white, now that is something to write home about. There are a ton of sweet white-based equipment and aura commander decks that don't touch green, meaning they generally lack synergistic mana acceleration. From Wyleth's Soul of Steel to Shram Senior Artificer, Akiri Fearless Voyager to Ariette of the Apple, there is no shortage of commanders that have been positively begging for a card like Cogsworth to come along. Even in green-white Equip Aura Matters decks, Cogsworth is still a great addition. The mana boost he provides is just that good. And I haven't even started talking about his third ability yet. Cogsworth also has an additional tap ability. At sorcery speed, you may tap Cogsworth to attach an equipment or aura you control to target creature you control. No need to worry about the equip cost. Keep in mind that in the case of auras, this ability only works to move them around from one creature to another, since an aura can only be on the battlefield if it's attached to a creature. But this can still be useful if you've changed your mind about which creature you want to enchant with your aura. Or perhaps you want to attack with one creature enchanted by the aura, then in your second main phase, move the aura to another creature that's on blocking duty. Proactively protecting your commander, accelerating out of your creature augmentations, and moving your stuff around once it's already in play, all for the low cost of 3 mana, Cogsworth is perfectly costed to fit into your curve just before you will likely want to start smashing. I expect this card to be an instant staple in any white-based equipment or Aura Matters strategy, and yet it's still not the best new card for Commander for use in the 99 from these new Commander decks. Number 3 on the list is a wild one, Mysterious Stranger, a red 4-mana 3/2 flash human rogue creature that usually casts an instant or sorcery spell from a graveyard for free. Which instant or sorcery? Well, wouldn't you like to know? When Mysterious Stranger enters the battlefield, you get to exile an instant or sorcery from each graveyard that has one. Then, if you exiled at least 2 instants or sorceries this way, you get to copy one of them at random and cast it without paying its mana cost. That is some sick value, most of the time. Because if there's only one graveyard with instants and sorceries in it, you don't get to cast the one you exile, though you do still get to exile it. Mysterious Stranger is a highly chaotic card, though not quite as chaotic as it appears at first glance. Yes, you don't get to choose precisely which card you get to cast off this guy, but you do get to choose the cards from among which you'll get to cast for free. So if you choose an array of cards that all do similar things, say multiple removal spells or card draw spells, you actually do get to be pretty precise with what you get out of this card. Even when you aren't precise, presumably you only choose cards that are good for you to cast, as long as you had that option. So maybe you exile a removal spell, a card draw spell, and a ramp spell. Any one of these will be good outcomes for you, even if some are more beneficial than others. Mysterious Stranger is a generically good card for any red commander deck, but will be especially good if you have any flicker effects to get repeatable use out of his enter the battlefield effect. You'll also want to run a healthy selection of your own instants and sorceries to add to the Stranger's pot. That way you reduce your risk of finding yourself in a position without enough graveyards stocked with spells for you to steal. Mysterious Stranger is the type of card that leads to really exciting gameplay moments. The element of randomness adds a fun twist in more casual games, though the card is strong enough to be worth inclusion even in higher power level decks. That's right, even a power level 7 deck like yours could use it. So what are the top 2 best new cards from these Fallout Commander precons for use in the 99? Well, number 2 is... The second best new card for the 99 of your Commander deck from Fallout is a beautifully simple card. But don't let that fool you. This card is incredibly good. It's Radstorm, a 4-mana blue instant with Storm. Its effect? Proliferate. Just proliferate. Well, and Storm, of course. Wow, is this card cool. I absolutely love this type of card design. 2 keywords, that's it. Storm is such a dangerous mechanic, literally so dangerous to spawn an entire 1 to 10 scale of dangerous mechanics named after it. Storm is so dangerous that we rarely see new cards with it anymore. But, as understandable as that is, it's such a shame, because the mechanic is oh so sweet. Proliferate for each spell you've cast this turn. That's so many proliferates. In a deck that gives you your opponent's poison counters, Radstorm is tantamount to Tendrils of Agony. In a deck with lots of planeswalkers, this deck can pump them up to ultimate ready. All of them. If you have an army of attackers with +1/+1 counters, this card can make those monsters grow! If your first spell for turn is Prologue to Phyresis, then you only need to proliferate 9 times to kill all your opponents in one fell swoop. That's a storm count of 8, sure, or you can use other cantrips like Contentious Plan or Experimental Augury to proliferate additional times, adding to that storm count when you do. Maybe you have a Flux Channeler or an Exorable Tide in play to speed up the process even more. Before you cast Radstorm, you probably want the storm count to get up to at least 3, so you can get an adequate number of proliferates out of your mana investment. But keep in mind that Radstorm is an instant, so you can cast it on your opponent's turn after they've cast a bunch of spells. Heck, if you get a few -1/-1 counters on your opponent's creatures, then Radstorm becomes a 4 mana instant speed board wipe with just a few spells cast prior. Radstorm is a fun and highly flexible card, either providing substantial value for a very reasonable mana investment, or outright winning the game as the capstone to a chain of spells cast before. This flexibility makes it anything from a spellslinger build-around to a role player in a deck that just likes to proliferate. Regardless of how you use it, Radstorm is exactly the kind of card that brewers love to fiddle with. Alright, this number 1 pick is an incredible card, and that's saying something because in all honesty, these Commander precons are packed with a lot of spicy choices, but I feel that this is the number 1 pick for best new card for the 99 from the Fallout precons. Number 1 on the list is another that might not look like much at first glance, but it is cheap, colorless, and useful. 3 traits that will make it by far the most ubiquitous card on the list. That's right, it's Pipboy 3000. Pipboy 3000 is a 1 mana colorless equipment with an equip cost of 2 generic mana. Whenever equipped creature attacks, you may choose 1. Loot a card, put a +1/+1 counter on the creature, or untap up to 2 lands. And if you equip it to a creature that isn't summoning sick, and that creature gets to attack right away, you can use Pipboy 3000 to untap the 2 lands you tapped to equip the card, meaning you really only spent 1 mana on Pipboy 3000. The beauty of this card is that all 3 modes will be useful some amount of the time. Untapping 2 lands is effectively ramp, provided you can make use of the 2 lands twice, once in your main phase and once after combat. If you don't need the mana, then you get to choose between either looting for some card selection or pumping the creature that attacks. Remember, Pipboy 3000 doesn't ask you to deal combat damage to get any of these modes. If your opponent has blockers, you still get your effect. Imagine you're playing a Rock deck. On turn 1, you play your Rock and the Pip-Boy. Turn 2, you play a second land and equip the Rock with Pip-Boy and attack. Untap your 2 lands with Pip-Boy and you're off to the races, acquiring a little bit of value every time you attack for the remainder of the game, beginning on turn 2. You can justify running this card in almost any Commander deck, but it is especially good in Commander decks with plenty of cheap creatures to equip with this card. Pip-Boy 3000 is tutorable off of Stoneforge Mystic and Urza's Saga. It can set up Reanimator and other graveyard strategies with its loot ability, distribute counters on your creatures to set up for proliferate shenanigans, or provide a boost of mana on the earliest turns of the game, allowing you to get out ahead of your opponents. You can even float 2 mana in response to the trigger and cast a 4 mana instant in your attack step. Maybe you have a bounce land in play, so your ramp actually gives you 3 extra mana to work with, instead of 2. Speaking of Urza's Saga, you can make a construct token, then use Pip-Boy 3000 to untap the Saga, and make an extra construct token. If your land is a Castle Embereth, you can use Pip-Boy to get an additional pump ability for your team, or use Castle Lochthwain to draw an additional card. The possibilities are limitless, and the point is, it doesn't matter how you use Pip-Boy 3000. It's the kind of card you can just put in your deck, and it will accrue a little bit of value every single turn for the remainder of the game. So despite its unassuming little form, Pip-Boy 3000 is absolutely my number 1 pick for Commander cards for the 99 from these Fallout precon decks. Now, whether or not it is worth it to buy these pre-cons will depend on what they're selling for and what the overall financial value of them entails. And I will, of course, be doing my traditional Is It Worth It to Buy video upon release. But as far as card designs goes, just like with Warhammer 40,000, I think that there are some amazing new designs for Commander, both in terms of legendaries to build around, and of course, as this video listed, for cards for the 99. But it's not just these new Fallout cards that are great for use in the 99 of your Commander decks. There's a giant history of amazing Magic the Gathering cards, many of which are completely untapped potential. I've gone through all of Magic's history and found a selection of cards that are great for your Commander decks, but that aren't really being used for some reason, and therefore are untapped potential you might want to know about. Check out that video here, linked in this video's description. Seriously, the cards I talk about here are highly undervalued, under the radar, and ones you want to hear about. So give that video a watch if you haven't already. And remember that I'm not just giving away 6 boxes from Magic the Gathering history on my next Whatnot stream, but I'm also giving you a $15 credit to spend on anything on Whatnot, Magic the Gathering product or otherwise. Just go to www.whatnot.com/invite/Tolarian College and then tune in to my next Whatnot stream for a chance to walk away with one of my favorite things from Magic's history. I hope to see you there, and thank you Whatnot for sponsoring this video.
La prochaine fois à Shuffle Up and Play.
We have 3 Canadians here with us today, and we are playing Tag Team Canadian Highlander.
Hi, I'm Benjamin Wheeler.
Hi everybody, I'm Serge. I'm also from Loading Ready Run, and I'm here to beat you, right?
No, we're working together.
I'm Pascal Maynard. One of my favorite stats is I've played over 100 Grand Prix.
Wow, I don't even know if I've day 2 to Grand Prix.
Wheeler doesn't look happy.
But look at how analytical he is when he grabs those cards and scratches his head like a monkey.
Yeah.
Should we force a will it?
Oh, he's got
Don't
the
force a will it.
There's a very interesting question. If given the opportunity, would you strip mine lock the professor?
Wow. Dude, what the hell am I supposed to do?
I don't know, you're dead next turn, find an answer.
I'm gonna be honest with you, Serge, I have no idea what the he's doing.